Okay. Hello, good afternoon, early evening. I'd like to call the meeting of the Fishers Advisory Committee on Disability, Wednesday, June 21st, to order. And if we could please get a roll call.
Yes. Cecilia.
Here.
Kelly. Here. Wilbert. Here. Stacy's out. Darcy.
Here.
Chrissy. Michelle. Shelby. And Ross.
Here.
Thank you.
And we have two members that I believe are on their way and going to be here shortly. Next, we want to approve the previous minutes for the meeting on April 11th, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve the minutes.
Okay, motion by Darcy, a second.
I'll second.
By Kelly Hartman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on. We have a few guest speakers today. The first speaker is representatives of the Hamilton County Express with a transportation update. I'm really excited to have Roscoe Brown, who's the newly hired transportation director for Hamilton County Express, and Yolanda Kincaid, the president and CEO of Janus, who will provide us with an update. So many of the disability community participated in the My Point of View Day in March, and we had a roundtable discussion talking about transportation, specifically as it relates to Fishers and ridership. And through those conversations, there was a task force that was put together by Commissioner Mark Hairbrandt. Kelly Hartman and I are on that committee to help represent the disability community and kind of get things going to see how we can work collaboratively and to help bring more transportation opportunities to all the communities here in Hamilton County. So Roscoe and Yolanda are going to come up and give a presentation. Roscoe's going to share a little bit about his background. I'm really excited. He is an expert with transportation and he's got hired, was with Indigo before. So please come up. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much for allowing us to be here. I know you got a packed agenda, so hopefully we won't take up too much time, but do appreciate the opportunity to come and share about transportation, public transportation here in Hamilton County, and what's going on with public transportation and what could go on with public transportation. But a little bit about me, and I want to acknowledge Yolanda, who is our president and CEO, but do want to give a little bit of background on myself. I came on the board just a little over 2 months ago, and I previously had retired from the Indianapolis Public Transportation Corporation, better known as Indigo in Marion County. And I had spent roughly 22 years there. I left there as Chief Operating Officer and Vice President of Operations for Indigo. Was able to close out my transit career, I thought, with Indigo, having started that transit career in the not-for-profit arena back in the 80s, I guess it was, with a not-for-profit organization doing community transportation, specialized transportation for elderly and persons with disabilities. Left there and went to public transportation with Indigo, had that opportunity. So my background arena is in the not-for-profit industry, going to public transit, and I even had a little bit of private transportation experience as well. But left Indigo, had a lot of experience there, was able to be a part of and participate in the electrification of the Indigo, beginning electrification of the Indigo fleet, going from fossil fuel vehicles to fully electric vehicles. I was also able to be a part of the design and the organization and construction and operation of the brand new downtown transit center named after former Congresswoman Julia Carson, which is the first off-street transfer center that Indianapolis experienced since probably the early 60s when they had Old Traction Barn downtown. And then closing out my career, I was able to participate in the planning and development of the first fully electric bus rapid transit line in the United States, and here it was called the Red Line. So that first BRT line is up and operating, was able to see that come to fruition. So brought a lot of experience, and hopefully I can be of some benefit to Hamilton County and Hamilton County Express. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and take a few minutes and just share some information about Hamilton County Express so that everybody is clear about what we do. And I was told I push a button here and it goes there. Okay. So Hamilton County Express, first want to tell you that Hamilton County Express is a demand response-based accessible public transportation service, okay? And when I say demand-based, demand response-based, what that means is there are two ways to provide public transportation. You either provide it through some fixed route means, which is where you have, like in Indianapolis, they have 40 and 60-foot buses that go down specific routes on a fixed schedule, and they have bus stops where people actually have to come to utilize the service. And demand response is a service that comes to you. Okay, so the difference between two is fixed route, you have to go to that service to use it. Demand response, the service comes to you based upon your demand for transportation. Hamilton County Express services all of Hamilton County, okay, which is quite a task because Hamilton County is just as large as Marion County. It's over 400 square miles. Okay, just figure that out in your mind when you're trying to pick up kids to go to soccer practice, right? So, Hamilton County, large area that we're trying to provide demand response service in. Okay, it's a challenge in itself. Also, we provide service Monday through Fridays from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Saturdays from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. That's limited service. Okay, it's based upon the resources and the manpower and equipment that we have right now. But guess what? As a public transportation system, we're not able to service you if you need service in the evenings. Okay, we could probably take you to an event somewhere downtown Carmel, somewhere downtown Fishers. Okay. For an evening event, take you to a restaurant, but we probably won't be able to get you home. Okay. There's also no service on Sundays. Okay. So if you work on Sundays or you want to go to worship service on Sundays and you need transportation, we're not going to be able to provide you that service right now. Demand response, Hamilton County Demand Response Service is also a shared ride, origin to destination, or curb-to-curb service. Okay, shared ride, meaning that somebody else, more than likely, will be riding on that bus with you. They may come from the same place that you came from, or they may come from someplace we stopped along the way going to your destination to pick up. Okay, so it's a shared ride service. It's trip reservation that are required for this service, and right now you can request trips up to 2 weeks in advance. Okay. Would like to shorten that, okay? Since I've been in this a little over 2 months, that's one of the things we talked about. Would like to shorten that reservation period because guess what? In 2 weeks, a lot of things change. Somebody may reserve a trip, and 2 weeks later, maybe they forgot about it, or maybe the doctor appointment canceled, and they forgot to call us back. Okay, so a lot of times what happens, we end up having late cancellations, where people call us at the last minute and say, oh, I forgot to call you and tell you that I'm not going to need that trip today. Well, at that point, it's pretty hard to fill that slot with somebody else's demand that it could have been in there. So shortening that time period gives less opportunity for that to happen. So that's one of the things that we're looking at as well. Our fares are $3 for every one-way trip. And as far as manpower, how we run transportation, besides myself, we have a transportation manager full-time, and we have right now 20 full-time and part-time vehicle operators that cover typically 16 routes a day. Okay, now these aren't fixed routes. These are signed manifest routes that they're given based upon the demand that came in and scheduled for that day. So every day their route may be different. Okay. We have 2 full-time dispatchers covering that spread of 12 hours, and one of them is also our scheduler, okay, that helps to fine-tune what the software has reserved in terms of trips and put them into an order of pickup. Reservations, we have four full-time and part-time customer service reps that take in the calls when people are requesting transportation. Vehicle maintenance, we have one full-time maintenance manager. As far as our fleet, the services we provide with a fleet of 24 transit buses. These are what we call body-on-chassis. They're two-step manufactured vehicles, come on a Ford chassis and a body is put on top of them at a separate manufacturer. They're all wheelchair accessible. They come in capacities of 12 to 8 with 2 wheelchairs on each. This is an aging fleet we have. Okay, if you've seen them, you probably know that, or if you've had the opportunity to ride on them or had a family that has ridden on them, you probably have heard that as well. It's aging fleet. 15 of the 24 vehicles are over 100,000 miles in mileage, okay? And considering we put about 30,000 miles on a vehicle every year on average, you know, it's real easy to rack those 100,000 miles up. 10 of the 15 vehicles that have over 150,000 miles have over 100,000 miles, have 150,000 miles on them, okay? Now that is what gets to beyond the useful life as determined by the Federal Transit Administration. They have 150,000 mile determination on those type of vehicles as their useful life. So we have many buses that are beyond their useful life. We will still run them. We'll run them safely because we maintain them, and we'll run them until we can get replacements for them, okay? We are currently pending delivery on 4 new units from our 2021 federal grant that we received. Those units will be in starting in September to early next year. We should get 2 in the fall and then 2 right at the end or the beginning of next year. So we'll be able to replace 4 of those 10 vehicles with those new units. The procurement of vehicles has been impacted by the pandemic as everything else has since 2020. And because when the pandemic hit, everything shut down. The manufacturer shut down. So Ford closed shut down their manufacturing line, okay? They're just now getting back up to speed, and from what I understand, they're still less than 50% at 50% of capacity right now. So getting vehicles that were due a long time ago, everybody in the country, not just Hamilton County Express, everybody in the country that's expecting new vehicles or used to getting new vehicles through the federal procurement process are waiting in line, okay? So we're no different than that. So we have to make sure that we're maintaining the vehicles that we have, the assets that we have, so we can continue providing safe transportation, independable transportation for folks. What we're working on also is looking at creating a more responsible and viable ongoing fleet replacement strategy going forward. That doesn't mean we come in and we try to raise money to replace every vehicle we have, because if they have a 5-year useful life, guess what? In 5 years, we'll have to do it all over again. So a more responsible way to do that is to stagger that replacement, okay? So you're getting maybe 2 vehicles a year to replace 2 vehicles kind of thing. That's really what we want to get to, is a more responsible and viable replacement plan. So let's look at the services that Hamilton County Express has provided through the first 5 months of 2023. We'll tell you that we provided so far 25,382 rides, okay? We annualize that out, we're on pace to do close to over 60,000 rides. That's above what we did last year, okay? So we're in pretty good shape. I will point out, just excuse me, on the pie graph, the percentages are off about a point. I think something happened, ghost in the machine when I transferred that over to the PowerPoint, but the percentages are correct on the graph you see next to it. Right now, Noblesville is recipient of most of the trips that are coming out and being delivered at close to 47%. Fishers has highlighted is right now at 14%, ranking number 3 out of the four major cities in Hamilton County. So looking at the 3,584 trips, almost 3,600 trips that have been delivered to Fishers, we're going to see that most of those trips are trips from Fishers to Fishers, In other words, they're inside the Fishers city limits, the bulk of those. Next to that are trips to Noblesville, okay? So there's a pattern of travel within Fishers, and there's a pattern of travel from Fishers going north to Noblesville. And then the rest is spread out to various other parts of Hamilton County. I will tell you that on this graph, you'll see there's a number of trips requested, which for the period is at 5,774, and then there's a number of trips that are delivered, 3,584, okay? The trips requested aren't always delivered, okay? Because some people may request a trip and we don't have capacity to provide that trip. If we can't negotiate a time that works within the schedule, then that becomes a denial, okay? Also included in that are people who have late cancellations, as we discussed earlier. Also in that number is what we call no-shows, which is where we go to pick a person up and they're not there, okay? Either they forgot or they got another alternative, but they're not there, and we've sent the bus there. So that accounted for 38% of all those trips. So let's look at trips inside of Fishers, or into Fishers. More than 3/4 of those trips that came into Fishers from other cities came from Noblesville. Okay, roughly 3/4 of the trips, more than 3/4 of the trips came from Noblesville. And again, 36% of the trip requested to come in to Fishers were either no-showed, canceled, or denied. So, moving forward, well, there's a couple of good things. One, the Fishers trips are trending upward since the first of the year. They've grown approximately 32% since January to now, okay? That's a good thing because, summer's here now. So, and hopefully we're able to, with the things that we're trying to do, gain some more efficiencies and more productivity to be able to have bigger impact, not only in Hamilton County, but also in the community and city of Fishers. Some of the things we're doing moving forward, we're working to improve the fleet needs. We already talked about fleet replacement, but also looking at fueling options. Right now, our main fueling option is at Country Mart up in Noblesville. And so all of the buses would go there to gas up. So what we've done so far is we've decentralized that gassing option, and we went to some retail locations. And I won't give them a shameless plug, but they have great donuts in the morning if you've been there, and they're all over the place. But we've selected 4 of those throughout the county. There's 1 or 2 here in Fishers that we utilize, just to give us another option so that we're not putting additional miles on the vehicle and spending additional time just getting to one place to gas out. But some of the other things we're doing is we're working with the cities, and thanks to Councilor Coble, we've had some communication with Fishers, and we're talking with them, and things look really good about, having some partnerships in Fishers. We talked about the fueling. Unfortunately, we found out that the volume of fuel we get is not sufficient enough for us, to garner any discounts. So that's probably not a good option here, but we do have retail locations that sell great donuts if you go there in the morning. But I hope my wife is not watching this. The other thing is that we're looking at vehicle storage and garage options. Right now, all the vehicles are stored in Noblesville at our facility on 32, and our garage is in Noblesville. So all the maintenance that's done, the preventive maintenance that's done is done there. Any major maintenance, we have partners with, some Ford companies. Don Hine, I think, is one of them. But all of our vehicles are stored there. So everybody starts there and they end there at the end of the day. So if the first trip is to Fishers, first trip is to Carmel, first trip is to Westfield, okay, there's going to be a period of time, before that operator gets there to pick that person up. That's time that could be better served if those vehicles were decentralized into the community. And I'm not saying all of you have to have a bus in your driveway, But what I am saying is that we're working with the communities to see if there's a partnership option where we can split our fleet up and put buses, so many buses in one area, so many buses in another, so that in the morning times when they start service, they can get a quicker response, and we can decrease the denial rate, so those trips that wanted to happen at a certain time in the morning can now happen because we have vehicles close by. So again, thank you to Fishers. We're having great communication with them and the other cities, but looks like we're going to have a real good option to put some buses here in Fishers. So as soon as I get more details, I'll share them with you. Okay. And so garage location is another thing we're looking at. Maybe there's a better facility that is available for us. Maybe there's a better facility that has indoor storage. That'd be great to have our vehicles stored inside so they last longer and they're not getting hit by weather and that kind of thing. So, also we're working to improve technology. Scheduling and dispatch software we currently have is a little taxing. Okay, it's not meeting our needs as we try to grow this transportation service. So we're looking and vetting other options that we might be able to bring on board that could increase our efficiency and improve our efficiency and increase our productivity across the board. Our current service right now, we've had some times when it goes down. We had an incident this morning, as a matter of fact, that the public side, the customer side of the service, the online service went down. So a lot of folks weren't able to access and pay for rides and things like that. So we got a ton of phone calls about that. So, and it takes a little time to get that fixed. You got to work with a tech support group and everything. So definitely in need of looking at that. But it services us, but it is a challenge. So we're also looking at mobile online capabilities, payment apps. We can't go to probably a cashless situation right now because there's always going to be somebody that, whether they're elderly or they're challenged with technology, that just likes to take out that coin purse and drop their dollars in that way. But we want to look at those kind of opportunities. Also, we look at upgrading camera and video capabilities. All of our vehicles have cameras on them, and that's for our safety, that's for the passenger's safety, and so we want to make sure that we upgrade those to the current technology. Also, we're working to improve staffing needs. Recruitment is always going on. We got 2 drivers right now that are in training, so hopefully we'll have them on the road pretty soon. Really good candidates. Training is another thing. I really want to focus on customer service. Customer service is a huge priority for me, and as well as service delivery. But service delivery doesn't mean anything if you don't have good customer service. I think we have good customer service. I think we have a good quality group of folks, but we can always improve, okay? And as we bring new people on board, we want to make sure that not only we identify people that can safely drive a vehicle, but can safely transport individuals, okay? And so we want to make sure that we're including in our training sensitivity and awareness training, okay? Making sure, especially with the population of passengers that we transport. Some are elderly, some are individuals who have, cognitive or developmental disabilities, and there's a way to be able to provide service to these individuals that comes with a lot of respect and awareness. And then probably most important, working with our communities and cities and counties. That's what we're going to continue to do. That was a conversation Yolanda and I had on day one, is being able to educate and develop advocates in the community. It doesn't do any good if the community is not aware that there's public transportation, or it doesn't do any good if the community doesn't know what that means and what that looks like, and what the impact is of having public transportation, okay? And I always tell folks, we may not, you may not, I may not need public transportation, but I guarantee you, like 6 degrees of separation, somebody knows somebody that is dependent upon public transportation, whether that's to age in place as an elderly person, and not having to go to a nursing home because they don't have any transportation or family, or whether that's somebody who's trying to get a job but doesn't have any transportation, or somebody who's trying to raise a family and go to daycare, that doesn't have transportation. There's somebody that everybody knows. Every time you go to a restaurant, your favorite restaurant, you notice that the restaurant is half empty, but you still have to wait to get put on the table because the wait staff's not there. Okay, I always found that interesting. Or the fast food line, you go through that, it's no longer fast, right? It's a slow food line, right? So you forget what you're going to order by the time you get up there. But anyway, so that's very important. Educating the community is our biggest task and challenge that we have before us. Because as we educate community, as we educate you and others, then you all become our biggest advocates to support public transportation. I can get on a soapbox in that parking lot with a bullhorn all day and night long, okay, and probably not touch a soul that makes a difference as it relates to supporting public transportation. But the collective community can do that, okay, whether you're doing it at breakfast, whether you're doing it at dinner, whether you're doing it working beside your coworker, or giving somebody a ride to the grocery store, okay? You can do that and put us in a position where the community, where Hamilton County recognizes that, hey, public transportation is a priority, okay? And, we need to get up real close to the top, okay, so that everybody can benefit from that. Then finally, working with the community, cities, and county to identify needs and create public transportation solutions. So what are some of the possibilities? Well, it's not likely you're going to see 40-foot buses traversing the streets of Hamilton County, okay? However, there's a possibility. Future service could include intercity express shuttle services, maybe between the cities, just running buses back and forth. And they don't have to be 40-foot buses. They can be the 25-passenger shuttle coaches, but running back and forth. So if somebody needs to go from Noblesville to Fishers, or Fishers to Carmel, and they don't feel like driving, they want to lessen their carbon footprint on the planet and park their car for at least one time, and hop on this bus, they can do that, okay? That's a possibility, okay? But what happens when they get there, okay, and they get dropped off? How they get around, unless they're getting dropped off someplace close to where they intend to go? Well, another option could be we have local city-town fixed shuttle circulators, okay, like in Fishers. Fishers could have a little circulator running around Fishers, that just hits all the hot spots. Maybe it's hitting Municipal Circle, is hitting, large employers like IKEA, or it's hitting some of the housing communities, senior housing communities, maybe some of the services. Municipal Circle is great because it's got everything there. Yeah, post office, city offices and everything. So that, and then a couple of blocks away, you got all these fabulous restaurants, right? So wouldn't it be great to just hop on a shuttle and just, instead of trying to navigate and negotiate a parking space, to be able to hop on a shuttle and enjoy your evening and leave the driving to us. So these could be options, okay? They're just some of the possibilities. They could be piloted, okay? You could try these things out. When I was at Indigo, we would have pilots. We'd get a grant, we'd do a pilot for a year, or 2 years, or whatever the funding would allow us to do. Some we would implement, some we wouldn't. Some we would find out things that would make us be able to develop our system better, okay? But the only way we're going to find out is you put it out there and see if people will utilize it. And it's stuff that doesn't happen overnight. I will tell you one thing about transportation. It is hard. It's hard stuff, okay? There's no easy way to say that. It's hard stuff, okay? Because if it was easy, it would have been done already, right? So it's hard stuff. It's going to take time. It's going to take commitment. And it's going to take financial resources, okay? Because it's expensive. So it really takes a community that wants to collaborate and build a consensus and also build a will. If we can do those things, then we can build public transportation, not only in Fishers, but in Hamilton County. And that's what hopefully we can do at Hamilton County Express. So, open up for any questions. I do have my contact information on the board. Is there anything you'd like to say, Yolanda?
Thank you, Roscoe. This is amazing. I'm really excited because I feel like we are moving the needle forward, and I know we've been working a lot with you and Yolanda and Mark Hairbrandt, the commissioner, and Steve Nation on the Hamilton County Council and others. But I would really like to have the advisory committee members, ask some questions. Now is the time to kind of what the information that has been presented, maybe share your thoughts, ideas. This is the time we need to kind of voice our thoughts as what you're seeing in the community.
First, I wanted to mention we've got I'm Michelle Stultz with Opportunities for Positive Growth. Some folks that have had really good success recently with working with some of your schedulers and some online something that Carolyn's doing, and so that has really helped take some of that back into kind of that team's hand versus phone calls, and they can
Right.
do it with the person and that type of stuff, and they can do it whenever and not just when somebody's answering the phone, that type of stuff. And then I just wondered on some of the statistics, and this was really relevant today because we had somebody come into the office who I think their ride was canceled and so couldn't go to work today. So it's like really top fresh in my mind. But of those, how many of those that weren't fulfilled or delivered, do we know how many of those were not like scheduled? Like they said, no, we won't be able to do that at all. How many were canceled, and then how many were the person who had scheduled it did not fulfill that commitment, weren't there, weren't available? Do we know how much of that is? Because I would like to see what we could do to make sure that we're not contributing to any of those where the person requesting the ride is not ready.
Yeah,
also.
there are, and I've provided Councilor Coble with some information that wasn't even put on the screen, so
Okay.
she may be able to share it with you
Okay.
as a group later. But there are some statistics that show for Fishers, because I did it specifically for Fishers, scheduled trips by zip code, scheduled trips, delivered trips, trips that were canceled,
Okay.
trips that were no-showed, and trips that were denied. Okay, so it'll give you percentages.
Okay,
You can
I
you
can
can
get with
figure
that.
out the percentages
Okay.
based on that. But I can
Sure.
tell you that if we combine all those and just call them denials,
Right.
you either got a trip or you didn't. Or I should say this: we either delivered a trip or we didn't. Okay, because all denials aren't from requests. Again, there are
Sure.
people that may late cancel or no-show. But, we're able to take that information, and our denial rates are extremely high, depending on the city. Fishers is at 38%, I think is up there. I think, and it's those cities that get the more. So obviously the big four,
Sure.
are the most producers of denial. So we've got to figure a way to get that number down. I think for the entire system, we're at, I want to say, we're in double digits, and I want to say it's around 15 to 18%. Okay, my personal goal, okay, and Yolanda can let me go if I didn't get it, but I would like to see that under double digits by the end of the year. I really would. I think there's some things that we can do with what we have, just by identifying more efficient ways to do things, to increase our productivity. Just shortening that 2 weeks down, to a manageable number, will have an impact. Okay. Now, some of these things are, we have to be careful how we implement these. Okay, because a lot of our riders are some are riders of habit, some are riders of need. Okay, and so when you change things, we have to make sure that we're communicating things. You just can't one day come in and it's changed.
Right.
We have to communicate it out. We have to listen to the feedback. maybe rework it and communicate it back out again. So it's a process. But I think there's things we can do to get those numbers down by the end of the year. We won't eliminate them, but we can get them down. But yes, if you
Yeah.
look at that information, you'll be able to see
So
that.
we have seen some of the things you're doing, that's starting to have positively impact folks' teams and that type of thing. But I also know that as we look at employment, transportation is always a piece, so.
Yeah,
And that happened just this morning, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
thank you.
With the new software that you're getting, and I know I have a little bit more information just on, as a recently prior board member, but is it going to be a possibility, and I know, I can't imagine routing any of that. If there's one job in our district, I never want Zach McKinney's job, having to route all those buses and get 21,000 kids or whatever, and I'm sure it's as challenging for you guys. But it would be super if somebody canceled, let's call it a week in advance, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh gosh, let me just try it and see that, that you could possibly capture some of those, because my heart breaks for the people that get denied a break
Sure.
or get denied a ride, which you guys can't help because
Right.
your schedule's full.
Right.
And then Michelle decides she's not going to go to her doctor's
Right.
appointment or something like that.
Yeah,
You know what
and
I
there's
mean?
a
My
lot-
heart breaks, and there's
Yeah.
nothing you guys can do.
Yeah.
But if she knows she's not going to go to her doctor's appointment because she changed it a week in advance, and maybe that spot opens and somebody else could snag it, it's a
Yeah.
win for everybody.
There are a lot of things that contribute to that and get us to a point of top efficiency and top productivity. A lot of that is beyond our control, and that's on the customer side, okay? And the customer can't even help a lot of times. They get a call from the doctor, say, oh, doctor's out sick today, we're going to have to cancel your appointment. That's not their fault, okay? But again, it's a late cancellation for us, and we probably can't fill that slot. It might loosen up some things that are real tight already, but we can't fill it with a slot from, Roscoe from last week that wanted a trip on that same day at that same time. So, but there's a lot of things that we can do in the software. Software changes just like, iPhones, every year they come out with new. Software changes a lot, technology changes a lot. But what's available now out there is so much better than what we have right now. I don't want to say it this way, but if we got anything new, we would see some advantages to it right away.
I have a couple of things that I would like to add, just for context. You can give me the wink if I'm getting in bad territory, Yolanda, but I personally wanted to thank Yolanda and Roscoe both for their leadership. So in all transparency, when I got invited to the transportation subcommittee, I was like, oh no. It's kind of like it's so big, and I didn't know anything about it, but I thought I would go, and I've learned so much in the last several meetings that we've had. And there are a couple of things that I think this group should understand, because we often are not only the people come to us for questions and answers, but we also are a voice to the resources that are available in our community. And one of the answers you were looking for is, in Fisher specifically, the denied ride rate is 65% of all those rides that weren't delivered. So we have that data and we can share it with you. But I think the other thing to think about is this isn't just getting rides. This is economic development, tourism. This is a lot bigger, because if you really look at the numbers that we have, and when you think about it from this perspective, the numbers that we talked about today are January through the end of May. That's 5 months. And so I was over here with my calculator just to be able to share with you that that's 5,200 rides a year in Fishers that aren't delivered. So 14 times a day, somebody from Fishers wants to go somewhere and can't, right? This is the most important thing I want to say, because even, I don't make mistakes very often, you guys. I'm just kidding. But when I do, I like to admit them. I hadn't in my brain separated the transportation issues, hadn't separated that from the organization that operates the transportation system, okay? Which is Janus is, the longest standing community-based organization in Hamilton County supporting people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. While they are the chosen operator of this, they have very little control over how new, what kind of funding, whether it's working well or not, because you can only have the best of the best if people fund that. And what I have learned is that really I feel like we haven't had all the right people in the room at the right time to make a difference, and I think that's happened through the subcommittee. I'm super excited about the software because it's going to make you so much more efficiency and will probably almost immediately allow you to go down to less than 2 weeks, right? And we're going to be able to help people get to work and other things they want to do. But, you know, for any moment that I've ever thought, well, Janus just can't get that transportation program running, it's really not like that at all. This is they're the operator, and they can only do what they can do. And so as we move forward, I think we can be a really big help to that. I'm so excited about the possibility of having a route or a transportation option parked in each city. Because from where we're sitting right now, it's 5.5 miles to where the buses are.
Yeah.
That's 11 miles a day. And you multiply that times the days that you're open, that's 3,400 miles that we don't have to pay for, that we don't have to put, you know, that excess on a van. And those people can start getting rides earlier because we don't have to worry about getting them here in the morning or getting them home in the evening. So I'm super excited about this, and mark my words, in 56 years, you've never heard me say I'm excited about public transportation, but I am really excited about not only what you guys have helped me learn, but just the steps that we're able to take and move forward to make things better. And I think the county and the cities as municipalities are getting on board with the understanding how big the issue is. So thank you guys for your leadership.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, ditto to that. Anybody else? Shelby?
Yeah, hi, Shelby with Conner Prairie. From an employer perspective, I'm very curious. There were a couple of interesting points I heard as far as differing locations for your vehicles to be stored, and I think of the largeness of Conner Prairie and the massive amount of parking spaces we seem to have. But more importantly, I'm curious how Conner Prairie as an employer and other employers in the Fishers area can support some of the initiatives and the high priorities that you have.
Well, yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Look, there's so many ways that can happen. You know, that can happen, one, by being an education partner, okay? And I'm talking about things that don't cost money, right? So being an education partner, just making sure that we have the ability to communicate out what it is that we do, the importance of public transportation, you know, maybe being able to celebrate that at Conner Prairie as an example. Obviously, financial support is always good. You know, there's opportunities that are endless. I remember one organization we talked about having people sponsor seats on the bus. You know, they can sponsor a seat and get their name on a plaque, put on that seat. You know, those are just kinds of things that you can do. But yeah, so my main thing is communication. We obviously need vehicles. Okay, right now our funding for vehicles primarily comes 80-20, meaning 8% of it comes through federal resources and 20% of it comes local. Okay, so I mean, if there's anybody that wants to sponsor vans, or if you know people who have van companies, okay, that are willing to have vans sponsored for us to operate, you know, that's something we could talk about and look at too. Our maintenance service, you know, maybe there's opportunity for maintenance, you know, at a dealership or service area that may want to provide service. It could be any number of things that can contribute to how we're able to, you know, maximize our productivity and minimize the financial impact to the organization.
A lot of great ideas. Thank you. Really quick, and I've asked this before, and I know we've had the conversation about it. In the graph, you know, where we have Fishers to Fishers rides at 55% of riders are going Fishers to Fishers, and again, it would be helpful somehow to have more of a drill down of that data to say, well, where are they going? You know, where are the hot spots, or are there hot spots, so that maybe if we were to consider in the future the inner city express routes or the fixed shuttle circulators, that we could identify, and to your point, you know, maybe there's employers that would be willing to sponsor a van just to get their employees to their organization. But at some point, if we could, and I know we talked about it, but to me, moving forward, I think every municipality is going to want to know where the people are going. So if we could get that data, you know, fishers to fishers, where they're going, and then how long are they staying there? That's another question. Like, is it all day? You know, is it just an hour and I'm coming back? You know, so if we could drill down, and maybe even like this next quarter, if there's some way to capture that data, I think the municipalities, in partnering with Hamilton County Express, I think this is the data they're going to want to know too, because then I think we could work with partners. We could get more ideas generated through that data. So that would be very helpful. So.
Yeah, thank you. What I provided to you today, you have an additional spreadsheet that breaks it down by zip code, okay? And that kind of narrows things down. There's a couple of things we got to understand. That one, the software we currently have right now, you know, is very challenging to try to mine through data and get analytics and things like that. Mining it down to how long somebody's going to stay at a place, it gets real challenging, because it may be two different buses. One bus taking them there and somebody else picking them back up. So now you got two buses that you got to search through their data to find the matches to put them together. Short of where they're going, one of the things that we're going to try to do, because as a transportation provider, there's not the ability to gather that kind of information on the bus. You know, when you're picking a person up, number one, the drivers are not doing intakes on individuals. And when people call in for reservations, the rule of thumb for good customer service is that call needs to last no more than 2 minutes. Okay? They need to be able to call, request something. Either they get it at the time they want, or they are able to negotiate with the reservationist to a time that would work for them, or we're not able to give them the trip. But one of those three things needs to happen in 2 minutes or less, because the queue has other calls waiting. And so we can't really do an intake on every individual that comes through. Now, what we can do, and what we're going to be doing this summer, is we will be doing surveys. Okay, there will be surveys that will be done on the buses. We're going to probably use tablets, okay? But there are going to be two types of survey done in one. One is going to be a transportation survey that gives us the data in terms of, you know, some more demographics. You know, it might get into age and that kind of thing, so we can, you know, we can work all that stuff out. But also, it's going to have a piece of that survey that's going to be customer satisfaction, because we need to know how well we're doing, or where areas we need to improve. Okay, so we're going to do that over the course of the summer, this coming summer, to do a survey. Now, that would be a sampling. That's not going to be everybody, but it would be a sampling, you know, that we can then take that information, at least share, you know, publicly, and say, here's what our information we were able to find out from the customers that we survey. Okay, so we do have that online to do. But I clearly understand what you're talking about. As we vet more and more software, you know, the ability to collect that information, even if the person does it on their own, online, you know, fill that information in, you know, and have that capability, then that's what we'll try to do. But I clearly understand one of the things that has to happen in this collaboration between communities and cities and the public transportation providers, it has to be a collaborative effort. You know, if the Commerce Department has information, if the employers have information. Employers probably know who rides public transportation better than we do, okay? Because what happens is we'll get an address, okay, and somebody's going to Walmart. I don't know if they're going to shop, or if they're going to work, or if they're going to go to Subway and eat a sandwich. You know, they're going to Walmart. You know, how do you find out if you're going to do the rest? You have to mine that down. You have to ask them at least those 3 questions, okay? So survey is the best way to do that. It won't necessarily give us accurate to the person information, but it'll give us enough information based on a sampling to be able to move the direction of what the need is.
Right,
if that
the,
helps.
that a survey, if there was a way to be able to put that in there to say, you know, where do you work, or, you know, that data, if there's a way to put some of that data, or ask those questions in that survey, I think that would be really helpful. Or even asking, maybe it's too much to ask the bus drivers at the end of the day, because they kind of have an idea. I went to house, or I went to Walmart, or there's a regular that's on the bus every single time. I don't know. Maybe the bus drivers would be able to help to capture a log at the end of the day or something, I went house to house, I went house to Walmart, I went house to same as you. I don't know. But or the subscribers. I'm just throwing out suggestions, but I know we're running out of time, but again, I oh my gosh, this is huge. I'm excited. I think everybody is very excited, and I'm just ready for the future. And I think especially now that we have these advisory committees on disability in different municipalities, you know, we could really work collaboratively as a county and really make a difference. So I want to thank both of you for everything you've done. This is amazing, and thank you for the update, and we look forward to continuing working with you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Sure. Okay, up next we have our public health director, Monica Heltz, and she's with the Fishers Health Department. She's going to talk about the mental health awareness campaign that the Fishers Health Department has been doing, and the Stigma-Free Fishers powered by Credible Mind program. So thank you, Monica, for coming today.
No.
So if you can control it there, but you'll have to look up here to one of the larger screens.
Okay. It's magic. I
Yep.
don't know how that happened. I'm looking at this and it's not that. Thanks for having me here. It's good to see you all again. I know it's been probably 2 months since I've seen most of you at the event in March. So thanks for inviting me here. I know that over the discussions that we've had with all of you all and with many other community members over the last couple of years, as we've had focus groups, as we've had a lot of conversations, mental health keeps coming up to the top of concerns for this group and for many, many others. So with the Public Health Department coming in a couple of years ago, we really wanted to focus on some of the preventative ways that we can assist with supporting mental health for all Fishers residents. So on the one hand, we have a preventative focus that we've been trying to shift towards. And on the other hand, we've heard very loud and clearly from many, many people, including many of yourselves, of the need to have better way to access resources and find resources, specifically as they relate to mental health. I am not going to stand up in here and say that this is the solution for everything. It is not, but it is a solution that we hope will work for some things. So I'm really excited about it. We've seen it's very busy on the screen behind you guys, and behind me. So it keeps catching my eyes because it does scroll. Obviously, I did bring some goodies as far as some promotional stuff that we've been working to develop as we roll this out. So one of those items is some business cards. It has a QR code to the site. It also has the police and fire non-emergency lines, the health department line, and 988 on it. So you're welcome to take as many of those as you want to take. Please spread them around. We got these for our police officers because they wanted to have something that they could hand out on the scene to individuals that may benefit from a resource or multiple resources. We also have bookmarks that will be going out in the library. Again, QR code, a little bit of information on what the site contains as far as mental health resources. We've got stickers. You can put one on your laptop. You can put one on your water bottle. You can put one on your phone. That's where all of mine are. Or anywhere else you want to imagine if you want easy reference to this, or if you want to pick some up to give to people to use the site. So all that to say, we've got plenty of swag for you if you want to take some home and hopefully promote this, and I'll tell you why you should. So first of all, this is mostly, it's powered by a group called Credible Mind that curates the content for this site. We have redirected our Stigma Free Fishers website, so you can get there by going to stigmafreefishers.com. It will go right to this site. You can go there directly through fishers.crediblemind.com, but we're promoting the Stigma Free website because people know that. So Credible Mind is an organization that, or a company, I should say, that has a public health focus for mental health specifically to work to curate the resources and tools for this. So they use a pretty large evidence-based review panel to go through all the resources that are offered on here. They curate the content, so we don't have to try to develop that all the time. So that's where the bulk of the information that's on this website come from, is they're curating it, they're writing it, they're pulling blogs, apps, evidence-based resources and tools digitally and putting them in this one spot. We have the opportunity to then add our own resources that are local. We can tag them to specific topics. So we've started that process. You'll see that continue to build. Our primary focus right now is really working on those resource lists, because that's one thing that we've heard consistently from a lot of people as being a real need. We're trying not to duplicate things that are already out there, so sometimes there's another resource that has a bunch of stuff and we'll put that on there. An example of that is the Health for Hamilton County website that is brand new and being developed for some of the needs like food and housing and those kinds of things. So we have that as one of the resources. So hopefully I can do this without getting disoriented, because not really sure how to navigate. Ross?
So just use the
I can't
keypad
see
there.
on here what you guys can see up there.
So it's the same thing. So use that, pretend that's your monitor, and you should be able to use the mouse.
No. Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm like, I can't find the arrow. Okay, so if you go to stigmafreefishers.com or you use your handy dandy QR code link, this is the page that will come up for you, and it won't ask you if it's helpful yet until you poke around a little bit. Every month, these featured scrolling things will change, so those are updated pretty often and monthly. And so, here we've got PTSD, how to support somebody with that, LGBTQ, because this is Pride Month. There are resources to support, to facilitate being an ally for those populations, Men's Mental Health Month, those sorts of things. This is the main page that typically comes up. So the first place that people usually start is, now the scrolling happens a little bit fast for my hand-eye coordination on the screen. But one of the cool things about this site is that it has a number of assessments. So these are not really different from many of the other standardized assessments that are out there. If you can go on Mental Health America and take a depression screening, for example. This one they call a mental health check-in. Okay, so I don't know if I'm gonna be able to complete it. I'm probably just gonna fill in any bubble without reading it. But it's an opportunity it just asks you a question. It tells you this is a brief assessment. It takes 3 minutes. It tells you how long the proposed assessment you want to take is. You have the opportunity to sign in and create a login and save your information, but you don't have to. I can't see that far. So you can take this anonymously, you can take any of this anonymously, or you can create an account and save it, and you can look back and see your records of how, things may have changed over time. Again, I can't quite read what I'm looking at, but it's asking me, how do I feel? Am I worrying about things some days, most days, all days? Do I have little interest or pleasure in doing things? So these are kind of standardized questions from anxiety screenings, depression screenings. There's a little bit about how do I, socially, how am I fitting in? Do I feel like I belong to something? Do I have purpose and meaning in life? So it's a very brief but pretty broad topic assessment. There are these for very specific things. There are assessments for am I depressed? Am I anxious? Those are probably the two most popular ones that people have been taking. There's a lengthy one where you can get a really detailed report on how you might be faring. I was surprised, but shouldn't have been, at what some of my results were on the 12-minute long assessment. It told me I need to get out more and connect with people, which is true. So I was like, okay, yes, I need that reminder. Thank you. And then there's a couple of just demographic questions. I'm going to make something up just because I really can't see that well. At the end, so you can see I've been kind of filling this out. I can't read far enough to see this, but you can do this as a guest, or you can sign up and it'll keep your results. And then it'll give you your results. So here's the check-in. It's talking about flourishing. Are you flourishing? What about anxiety or depression symptoms? So this is very brief. It has some of our community resources are focused on here that you can link to if you like. There's the Help for Hamilton County site, for example. We've got Recovery Cafe, Hope Academy, stuff like that. Lots of local resources. And then it gives you a score, which I think is pretty cool. So it puts you on this triage line. It says, are you languishing? Are you flourishing? Are you moderate? This one gave me a moderately flourishing. And it kind of says, okay, well, you're flourishing, you're doing okay, you could be better. Your anxiety seems a little high right now, maybe. Maybe you've been busy at work. Your depression is this. Okay, it's not diagnosing you with anything. It's just saying, what do we do with this information? So now it's going to point you to a bunch of resources. Again, evidence-based resources. It's going to tell you how strong the evidence is. And you can scroll through them and find one that works for you. So maybe you like to listen to a podcast. Maybe you want to read a blog. Maybe you want to have an app on your phone. It has all of those there, and it'll point you to them. You can try them out. If you want to know what box breathing is, you can watch a YouTube on it. If you want to, whatever it is that you want. So that's one example of how to use this, is you can go in, take a quick assessment or a longer assessment, and get some information and a little bit of insight into yourself. You can see it's rated me on flourishing, anxiety, and then depression symptoms here. If, for example, my score had been in the red on you're really languishing, you should probably get some help, then it would point me to the Need Help Now resources, which includes all of the national crisis lines. So the 988, all of the text lines, the crisis lines, all of those, and then we have some of our more local ones on the side as well to say, okay, you probably need something a little bit more. Here are some additional local resources that you can check out. So we have the ability as a health department managing the site to tag our local resources to specific topics. So again, that's one way to use it is through these assessments. Another way to use this site is you can search for something. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this with caregivers is something that we've heard from this group is what kind of caregiver support do you have? What kind of caregiver resources there are there? So there are a number of different digital, again, podcasts, YouTube videos, resources, like how to de-stress, videos, all kinds of tools that might be helpful for you to participate in your home, by yourself, and explore kind of what works for you in this realm. This is not emergency care. This is not a therapist, but this is, hopefully something that can help people before they need to get to those places, or maybe after they're in a place and they're maintaining, right? Anybody can use it. It's open. There's no blockage on being outside of Fishers to use this. We are paying for this as the health department, and for Fishers residents, we're definitely talking about this all over Fishers. We're continuing to roll this out. It's been out for a month and a half, and we've had over 2,000 people access the site, and several hundred have taken assessments already. There are tons of different topics. Our most popular topics that people have searched for so far are anxiety, depression, anxiety among young adults, and those are definitely the top three. They go down from there, but people have taken, I think, probably 20 different assessments on this and explored probably at least 100 different topics. So I can see reports on not on anything individual, but on how many people are accessing, what kind of tools they're finding. So we could actually tailor what we want to highlight on the page based on what it seems like people are accessing as things change. So if there was some kind of crisis somewhere and people all of a sudden wanted to know about PTSD or crisis care or something like that, we could feature that more prominently. We are also using Google Ads to have anybody that's in Fishers that searches for anxiety or depression. This will come up as one of the top searches, so that we know that they're at least more likely, hopefully, to get more accurate information about those things instead of resorting to TikTok or many of the places that my daughter gets her information. I don't know if you guys struggle with that, but hoping to get a little bit more of this awareness and knowledge out there. So I showed you the Need Help Now. We do have the community resources page, and again, this is something we're still building. We don't have the ability to move these around yet, but we did put a lot of the local organizations on here. One, and it will link directly to the outside site. So one example that I was pointing to here, the Psychology Today, that's just the therapist finder tool, and it's set for Fishers. So you click on that, you get the list on Psychology Today of all the therapists in Fishers that are registered there. YMI, Shepherd Center, all of our favorite people, right? So, and then some of these, like I said, like if you search for anxiety, you might get a local resource that's, for example, Agape, the writing center, that might help you with that particular thing. So as we build our resources and we build our ability to do the, to put different things in here and target those, you will start to see those tags being more robust. The site managers, the Credible Mind folks, actually just added the ability to tag, I think, on this community resource page, because that can be a little overwhelming. But if you just wanted anxiety, for example, if I had put in an anxiety tag on one of these things, then it would just show me the resources related to anxiety. I don't know if I'm spelling this right because I can't see that far. But if I search disability, for example, it shows me some organizations, it shows me some blogs, some resources, some interviews with people, some maybe inspiring people that might be able to speak to how, depression intersects with disability, and maybe I can learn something from there. So that's kind of a broad overview, but happy to entertain any questions about this. Like I said, it's not meant to be the be-all and end-all solution. It's not going to help you find the emergency care, but it is a preventative step that we're taking as part of our mental health actions.
Monica, this is amazing. Thank you for all the effort that's being put on mental health. And the question I had is there a way to link the disability resources page from our website?
Yeah.
So that if you are a caregiver of a person with disabilities, or you have a disability, it would take you to the resources for people with disabilities, or for caregiver support.
I think so, as long as that's a tag I can use, and if not, the Credible Mind people have been really, really good to work with, so I do not see that it would be any problem to have it added if it isn't in there already. But yeah, I can do that in 5 minutes.
That would
I can
be
put that on
wonderful,
there. It would
'cause
show up probably, like usually the resources for local show up on the right. So it would link to that local resource, which is the part I can control. So if you were to search it, then that that would filter it down. So anybody looking for any kind of disability resources would get that as their primary resource.
That would be wonderful. Are there any questions for Monica? Okay. Well, thank you, Monica. This is wonderful. Great resource for our community.
Take some of the goodies and please spread them around, because the whole point is for people to use it. So
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. This is great. Okay, we're going to do some community updates, committee updates. So we're going to start with housing. Wilbur Sutton, he attended the Han Housing Conference recently, and also Ross as well. So he's going to give us kind of a brief overview of how that conference went and what he took away from that conference.
Some of the things that we learned there weren't terribly surprising. As we learned about housing reports, they said they've been declining each year, and they said it's kind of depressing, and those were not a surprise. They were talking about the COVID effect. They said the COVID effect has brought about higher interest rates, et cetera, and that's making housing more difficult to address. They were saying ways that we could possibly think outside of the box, things we could do to make a difference. And one of the things that Cecilia asked us to kind of check into a little bit was Hamilton County Land Trust, and that is something that already exists within Hamilton County. It's not necessarily limited to Fishers, but basically decisions around land trust would be handled by an advisory committee. And they said the income importance on a land trust would be very low to middle income people that would be probably more interested. As we look at our housing disadvantage, the cost of land is one of the big issues. Labor's an issue, cost of materials is an issue, but especially in Hamilton County, land cost is an issue. And so they said there was they would like to. They said a link to a land trust has variety, and that's who do you want to touch. And they're talking about AMI when we're talking about income levels. 80% of AMI, 60% of AMI. Who are the people that we're trying to trust? And they said that basic structure actually determines who might lease the land. Hamilton County is currently working on funding. They said they're not going to be all things to all people. They're working to be more creative in the process to build what we do want. Some of the questions that were raised, they said, are zoning changes involved? No. Land trusts don't involve zoning. Traditional houses would be built. So we're talking about trying to make affordable homes in Hamilton County, affordable homes in Fishers. If we could pull the cost of land out of the scenario, then all of a sudden it makes that construction more affordable. They said planning and zoning will still define what we can or we can't build. They said it could be development, it could be redevelopment, but some land trusts deal only with the land, and they have to go outside of that to find people that would be developing the land. So you'd basically be developing properties, but the city would hold the land trust. The reason the cost of land would go away was because you wouldn't own it. You'd be building on it, but the city would own it. So there's other things that we could look into. We could look into housing trust funds. We would need to decide who we were going to try to reach financially. That would be one of the big issues. So there were a lot of questions that were related. Obviously, one of the things is philanthropy. Who covers this? Who pays for it? Those are just all tools that are out there that are at our fingertips. Ross, I don't know if you have any.
Yeah, just to echo you, you're right. My notes say every housing study is worse than the last, so we already know that. So we echo on that. We have seen some innovative ways, though, to create quality single-family housing. A recent one that we saw was the groundbreaking of Han's Cumberland Cottage. That was approved by City Council here. That was delayed slightly because of COVID, but that is starting up, so we're glad to see that project happen. He did mention the Hamilton County Housing Collaborative. That's the name of the land trust that would be working. And to give an example of what he was talking about, 25% of the house cost in Hamilton County is the land. So if you take 25% of that house cost, you're now reducing that overall cost, now making that home more attainable. So that's like a very easy way of kind of thinking about that. And like you said, the land trust would still own the land, and the person would be owning and operating the house. So there was a lot of good stuff. Han has made several of their sessions available in your guys' downtime on their website if you would like to look at those. But it was a good information.
Great. Thank you for the update. Any questions for housing? I know it's continues to be a hot topic. I get calls all the time about South Point Village, and there's a waiting list, and people are like, is there a South Point Village in my community, you know? So something to think about, you know, for other opportunities that might be out there. Okay, we're going to go on to employment. Chrissy and Michelle.
So, Michelle and I, luckily, were talking and our notes matched up, so it was
That's
well.
right.
So we're continuing to work on the reverse job fair that's going to be hosted at Grace Fisher's October 6th. We had a great planning meeting and made our rough agenda and working on a key speaker. There is a current client at OPG that is going to be working with potential employees on making job boards and, you know, things to hand out to employers or visuals to have. She was our rock star there last year and seemed very happy to do it. So OPG has been kind enough to offer that. Actually, she's a client and an employee there, right? So they're going to lend her out to us. We have our next business networking meeting July 18th at OPG, and it can be virtual if needed, but most of us, I think, the majority of us, I think, enjoy being there personally, but that's an option. We're working with Christina Blankenship at Voc Rehab about some sort of a training program for employers, and this was kind of vested through SMC reaching out to Kim Holland at Work One, and kind of saying that they want something for their managers, they want something for their people, they want something that, you know, can be hands-on. So they're actually going to host a lunch and learn, and we're working on the date between July and August of when that's going to be. That being said, with Project with VR, we're working with a local business that they again reached out and said, our managers need some more training. They've got the idea, but they need some training. So we kind of talked about, instead of doing a lunch and learn or whatever and taking a lot of time, maybe just housing a job coach or two. They're out Fridays from 12 to 2, and they can work and do notes and paperwork and all the things that they need to. And then if a manager has a question or they need some tips or something, that they know that time is vested with this particular business, and we can get some training that way. It's also a little less put on the spot about issues, you know, so we thought that might be a way. So we're working on that. And March that we met, my job coaches, OPGs, actually we opened it up at the networking meeting in itself, but met with Jill Doyle and Mike Thibodeau from Invest Hamilton County, and they gave us some great ideas and offered to do some more trainings. OPG is going to be opening a site kind of at a different hotel similar to what they're doing with Janus, but just offering more opportunities because Janus's is full. So we need to open more, and the hospitality area is the one that is needed the most right now. They can't fill all their spots. So, but they continue to offer other options. So not just hospitality and not just with OPG, but the school district, and even talking, hey, if we're doing it in Carmel, could you guys go to Carmel? And obviously that's something. So they got some good insight from job coaches about businesses that still kind of are a little reluctant to let us in, and they've offered to help make that connection and open those doors. So kind of a lot. That we've been doing, but it's all been good and very receptive, and we'll go from there.
And lots of good community connections. I think we're starting to pick up or continue to where we left things off a couple years ago to kind of rebuild some of that momentum too. So
Wonderful. Did you guys connect with? There was talk about doing a county-wide job fair sometime in October. I didn't know if you were thinking about that at all? Like Carmel was looking at wanting to partner with us, so.
Not heard anything about that.
Okay. So, well, let's loop everybody in and
Sure,
kind of
yeah.
talk about that. I think there
Okay.
was
Sure.
some rumbling. And then, also recently there's a Business Women Alliance. They are kind of interested too in
Okay.
learning more. It would be in the evening of having like a panel discussion of how do you hire people with disabilities. So a lot of great things happening. Thank you for everything you're doing. When is that networking meeting on July 18th? Where is that going to be and what time?
OPG at 8:30.
At 8:30, and then we'll have a Zoom, yeah.
OPG at 8:30.
And
Okay.
then we'll do, there's a Zoom link as well.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Chrissy and Michelle? Wonderful. Okay, then we're going to have an update on community support and services by Kelly Hartman.
I'll make it quick. We also have a lot going on. 3 things. Number 1, just the official excitement about Outside the Box coming to Fishers, and their grand opening is July 10th. That comes timely this week as the City Council affirmatively voted to move forward with the Community Center at Johnson Farms. $60 million project. It is beautiful. I would suggest you go to the website and look at the I call it a flyover, but it's kind of like a fly through. It really shows the detail in the renderings, and it's fantastic. It'll be located around 121st and Cumberland, and that will be the eventual full long-term home of Outside the Box when they hope to open in a couple of years after. Oh, I'm sorry, yes, 121st and Hoosier. Please don't put down my wrong words. Okay, second thing, had the opportunity, and I think it was called Community Conversation. There was a panel that was conducted really by Hamilton County Tourism, and we talked with providers all across the county about accessibility, but the conversation became much greater than that. It was like a big championing, cheerleading rah-rah for employing people with disabilities, and it was a much bigger conversation than curb cuts and stairways, and just really the challenges that people have. I thought it was fantastic. So I would encourage you guys to watch for further community conversations like that. It was a very great opportunity to talk. And probably the best news I have for anybody who is interested in the actual home and community-based services waiver that provides a lot of services in homes. And really, the poor rates have been kind of a challenge to people in Fishers and the surrounding communities in Hamilton County to get services they much need in their house. The legislature came through and gave some significant rate increases for respite services, for example. Those hours, the hourly rate was increased 45% for respite, which is a really, really big need in this community when people just need a break to be able to go out on a date night or go out and spend some time away from being a full-time caretaker for their child or loved one that might have disabilities. The folks who get more 24-hour type services, those rates were increased from anywhere from 6% to 21.6% per hour. Rec therapy and music therapy, also services that are hard to get because it's been so underfunded, but people really, it's a high desire service. Both of those got more than 50% increase. So this has been kind of earth-shattering. I think to understand the big picture, if you have a family support waiver, as of January 2022, you had a cap of $19,614 of services. Because of this rate increase, the family support waiver cap is increasing 35% to $26,482. So not only will staff benefit from the ability to be hired at higher wages, but families will benefit from being able to keep up with that and get the services they need. So the first step in that was kind of right-sizing the reimbursement. That's really a big push this year. Then after that, the Division of Disability and Rehabilitative Services will be bringing over the TBI, which is traumatic brain injury, and the A&D waiver, which is aged and disabled. Again, impacting many people in our community. Those waivers are going to come over to the Bureau of Developmental Disability Services. And then amongst all of that, we have the ARPA funds funding more than 40 innovation projects across the state that are to improve how we deliver services and what services are available. That is all happening now, all to be completed by the end of first quarter 2025. And then those concepts that have been proven to really show a difference in people's lives and people having the opportunity to live their best life will be integrated into the waiver redesign in 2025. So super, super exciting things happening on a state level with the federal and state match. And like I said, it really is earth-shattering. The rates have needed to be increased for so long, but this is really going to get the needed support to families in our community. Pretty excited about the day service rate coming up too, because it will give OTB a fighting chance of actually being a great addition to the resources that we have in this community. And that is all I have.
That's exciting news. I'll tell you what, there's so much positive that's happening, and it's a lot of it has to do with the advocates that are in this room and outside this room. Please be sure to talk to your state representative, your state senators, and thank them for their vote for supporting this much needed help that's going to go a long way to help the disability community. Next, we're going to have an update from Darcy Keith, networking and social opportunities. Darcy's been working hard, engaging with some of the social groups in our community, and she's got a lot of great ideas that she wanted to share with us today.
Well, like everybody else, we have been pretty busy on the social opportunities and networking. First, we work with Best Buddies and getting them signage so that way when they go to the summer concert series, they'd ask for, hey, we want to have our own spot. And so we got their signage, connected them up. They are going to be there July 11th at the Fisher's Free concert on Tuesday, so please keep your eye out. They're so excited, and we're just so happy to be able to do that for them. The second thing is, one thing that we decided and we talked about is we'd like to have a disability day at the Fisher's Farmers Market. They have a service day and there's a club day. The service day is on the 22nd, and the club day is on the 19th, and I think there are on the 22nd, that's the volunteer day, and Best Buddies and Special Olympics are going to be there on that day. But we wanted to have just Disability Day first off, because there are a lot of folks that have a disability that may do artwork. One thing that a question from the group was, what can our folks, can they do? They do artwork, they may have written a book, they do all these other things, maybe earn some extra money at the Fisher's Farmers Market, not to mention talk about all the different disability awareness groups out there, and have them just come and provide that support and the resources. So we're going to get together in August and talk a little bit more about having Disability Day next year at Fisher's Farmers Market just for that. And then another thing that we did, I've been putting together a calendar of disability awareness months. So we all hear about, chronic CTE Awareness Day, World Down Syndrome Day, Parkinson's Awareness Month. So I made a spreadsheet of all the disability awareness days, and there are over 60 of them. So what I'm going to ask for everybody is, I'm sure I maybe missed one, or one may not need to be on here, but I'm going to send this out in a spreadsheet, and if you guys would just kind of take a look at it, add some, delete some, or say, hey, we don't need it. But in case, so what we're going to do with this spreadsheet is, so let's say there is Parkinson's Awareness Month. If there's an individual who'd like to share their story and maybe provide some more information or awareness about that, or facts about Parkinson's, or like for me, traumatic brain injury, more information about Brain Injury Awareness Month, and just highlighting that, and then maybe the city could put some facts out there, just kind of acknowledging, hey, this is the Awareness Month for Disability, and here's some more information about that. So I will be sending that that spreadsheet out. And then lastly, I know, like I said, I'm trying to talk really quick. We had the Disability Ally sticker for individuals. Well, hearing all these things with employment and businesses wanting to get on board, we'd like to have a disability Ally logo for the businesses so they can put it in their front window or their door. So we're looking at, where it says, I'm looking at Ross's cover, because I have just the disability one. So maybe doing I'm an ally, or having something a little bit different for a business to identify it's a business, because that's important for businesses to take that role to welcome those with, not only employed, but just welcome people with disabilities, know that they're safe in that environment. So anyway, that's another thing we talked about, doing a window cling for that. So if any of you have any ideas as to what that might look like, if it's something similar to this, taking out a word or above ally, saying I'm a business ally, whatever, I'm open to suggestions on the window cling. So those are kind of, let's say, the four main things that we talked about, and that's my report.
Lot of great work.
Yeah.
Thank you, Darcy. So we wanted to kind of, if we could talk just a few minutes on the business ally window cling. I think it's a good thing to start exploring, to maybe roll out. Maybe, I don't know, we'd have to talk to PR and Ross, but at the end of it, maybe for October, and incorporate it and start identifying the businesses that are part of partnering with us into learning, into employing, into being more accessible, just those things. So kind of wanted to get some thoughts from the membership on that.
If we're going to continue using Ally throughout the campaign, I think it's a great way to carry it throughout the year and know that that's kind of what our focus, and that is what we're looking at, is being an ally. So I like the idea of keeping on, whether we need to keep the picture or whatever, maybe not, but keeping that term ally, I think is a good idea for sure.
Oh, I was thinking of keeping at least part of the picture, because I wanted the branding maybe to go across the individual.
That's what I was going to say. I think we've done a good job of staying with a theme for the last several years, and it's recognizable. I know Old National Bank every year, like, now make sure we get our signs. We need some more signs, So like, I think that it's important that we stick with the visual that we've had.
And I think too, if you roll it out in the fall, and then we can, beef it up again come March, and maybe have two different toolkits, one for residents and then one for businesses. You already have a built-in list of businesses, like the Hampton Inn and Old National Bank that you just mentioned. That would be great if you're, to launch it in the fall. So I think, and there's other employers that you want, we could work with PR and figuring that out. I think it's a pretty easy task.
Yeah, and it's come up as our job coaches and some other businesses have talked about needing something like that, and so I think that would work. And just so everybody knows, October is Disability Employment Awareness Month, so that's why the October tie-in. So,
well, that sounds great, Darcy. Thank you for all your help with that, and we'll look for further developments. But I think we're all in agreement that it would be a great idea, and we'll work with Ross and his team, PR, and try to get that rolling here for the fall. So thank you. So we were going to talk about Disability Ally Program. Same thing, just these were ideas that came about in conversations with Darcy and also with the Employment Committee. So all good things happening. So next we're going to do staff communications. So we have Spark Fishers coming up, and I'll tell you what, we have an amazing team, staff that have been working hard to make Spark just an amazing event for the community and beyond. And a lot of people don't realize that a lot of work has gone into being accessible, and so staff is going to share what those things are in terms of accessibility and accommodations for people with disabilities and special needs. So Ross, I think you're going to do that. Okay.
We're in a couple of hats. So we're a little light on staff as we have a 5K tonight, which is exciting. So Marissa with Parks and Stephanie with PR could not be here, but I was given all their notes, so I'll kind of go through this. So Spark Fishers, if you go to playfishers.com/sparkfishers, you'll find an accessibility page. It's also linked on the agenda. So that goes in depth into the sensory inclusive bags that we have, which included weighted lap pads, noise reducing headphones, fidget tools, and communication cards. They also will be offering assisted listening devices for all the performances at the AMP. Those are available at the Parks info tents. We also know that we have accessible seating at the AMP, along with restroom facilities. So a couple things parking for tomorrow is our car and art show. That's going to be at the Small Dog Park parking area, which is just north of the depot. And then for Friday and Saturday, which is our concert, parade, and street fair, accessible parking is in the south city service parking lot. So kind of the de facto city hall right now. So that's the update. But all of that information for the public is listed on playfishers.com/sparkfishers.
That would be great. I'm wondering if maybe PR could help us put something on social media on that we could promote a little bit more, leading up.
Yeah,
to-
I have already seen posts already
Have you?
that were
Okay, I'll look,
accessible
I'll look.
focused,
Okay.
Really because they put this together, so they want to make sure it's
Right.
provided. But
Gotcha.
I can make sure they put it out again.
That's awesome. One thing that's come to mind most recently, and that we could talk to the Parks Department about the assisted listening devices and the sensory bags to have them maybe for the concerts on Tuesday.
Okay.
Because most recently, we have a lot of young people and of all ages, but that have sensory issues at the concerts, but want to be there with their friends and their family, and sometimes it just gets too much for them, and they have to go home early, or they can't be there. So it occurred to me after talking to someone who has a family member with sensory issues, I was like, we need to include that. So if we could do that, I think it'd be a great idea to also include it for the concerts.
Okay.
So that would be great. Next, we have the disability-focused calendar of events.
Yeah, so what the information I got from PR, and if this is directly, I can happy to work with Darcy on this. The city has a community calendar that we continue to try to promote. It's on This Is Fishers. It's a pretty simple steps to upload events. So anytime that any of those groups are meeting, we'd love for that info to be out there, and that's probably the best way for city staff to promote those events. So happy to have any one-on-one training with any organization here if we'd like to put that information on our existing community calendar. That was information PR provided.
Okay. So I'm sorry,
Yeah.
to clarify. So do we? So any organization can post it, or they don't have to get permission from the city?
Correct.
to
Any
post?
organization could post on This Is
calendar of
Fishers
events.
on the
Okay.
community calendar. Yeah, they have to create an account. It's pretty
Okay.
simple, and then you just upload your events. It's probably the easiest way to do that.
Is there a way?
The easiest thing with that, though, is maybe to have a training session to make sure everyone knows how to do that.
Okay. Do you think we could put that on the agenda for next month, next quarterly meeting, or you could?
If we know who the organizations are that would like to put stuff up, it most would be easier to have like a one-on-one conversation with
Okay.
PR and that. So if it's Michelle, or if it's Darcy, or if it's a different organization, I think that would be easier. I can have PR try to provide something here, but
I would like to be able to
learn, sure.
to learn myself. So I don't
Okay.
know if that's something we should just
I'll make that
try to
request.
meet with you, or we'll set a time.
Okay.
Because I get a lot of emails from groups that say, hey, we have this event coming up, we have that event. And so to be able to,
Yeah, the city would just like to empower all those organizations
Okay.
to upload that information.
that would be great.
Yeah.
That would be,
Happy to do that with you, Darcy.
that would be wonderful.
The last item on the agenda is for the Geist Waterfront Park, and I'm happy to kind of go over that. So really exciting, great new asset for our community. But from a disability focus, we all know that we have adult changing tables, which was a huge win, an ample amount of accessible parking, way more than the minimum that's required, the accessible path down to the dock and to the kayak launch. And something that I'm excited about that I didn't realize is we actually also have a beach access mat. So it's one thing to get from the parking lot down to the dock, but then it's another thing to get from the dock to the actual waterfront. So that beach access mat's being installed in the next couple of weeks. So if there was someone who was in a wheelchair and had that ability, they can now not only get to the beach but also get to the waterfront. And they also installed a disc swing, and disc swing is one of the best sensory integration tools. So if you haven't been to Geist Waterfront Park, you definitely need to get out there. If you need to get your pass, very easy to do that also on the city website. So we're excited to have everyone come out there.
Again, kudos to the team at Fishers, Parks and Rec, everybody. I mean, they are really making the effort. They're going to conferences anytime there's opportunities to learn and understand how to make things better, and making sure we're being accessible and inclusive. It's amazing. I thought there's some picnic benches, picnic tables there at the Geist Park that wheelchairs can go, can come underneath and sit at those tables. Very, very accessible. So are there any questions on any of the staff communications so please spread the word that about Spark and these amenities, the Geist Water Park, about the inclusivity and the ability to partake in those amenities here in our city. That's huge. We're now going to go to announcements. I do have one announcement coming up, and I need to make sure they are aware of putting this on the This is Fishers events page. But RHI is having an adaptive sports expo, the 5th annual, at the here in Fishers at the Fuel Tank, and that's going to be August 12th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And I'm going to try to get this out to our email list and everything. But it's going to be a great event. They're going to showcase all the adaptive sports that are available through RHI, and there's going to be vendors and demonstrations and resources and a lot of fun things. So they are looking for sponsorships. They're looking for people to come and attend. Again, it's going to be August 12th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So I'll make sure that they get this on the website, our city website. Are there any other announcements that anyone would like to share about community events or something coming up? Save the date. I think in October there's an event for Outside the Box here in Fishers, which will be really important since they are now going to be physically present here in our city. It'd be good to support Outside the Box in their first fundraiser that they will be having in the fall, which the date is.
It is Friday, October 6th. It'll be at the Montage, which is on 82nd, 6th, whatever it is there, between Allisonville and Keystone. And it's an annual event called Inside the Bottle for Outside the Box. And so it's a wine and food event, and we're going to be super excited to highlight the good stuff that's happening at Fishers OTB, which starts in July.
Wonderful. And the only other announcement I have is the next Fishers Advisory Committee on Disability meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, September 19th at 5:30 p.m. here at Launch Fishers Theater. And also, I encourage everybody to, on the agenda, there's a link that you can sign up for automatic notifications of the calendar events and meeting times. So this way, it's coming from the city as well. So that's important, so you're aware of what is happening in terms of disability initiatives and information that's important to the community. So with that, I'm so glad that we are actually adjourning at an earlier time. So could I have a motion to adjourn? Okay, motion by Michelle, second. Okay, second by Chrissy. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.